Okay, folks, let's take a break from all the happenings in the world and spend a little time and relaxing in the scriptures and it giving us whatever it is we individually need from it. I know I need some things from the scripture every day if I can get it every day to keep my spirit where it should be and to try to fight the evils of this flesh that plagues me. Just like Romans 7 talks about how we have this, as Christians, we have this internal warfare between our spirit and our flesh, and sometimes my flesh wins out. Hopefully, most of the time, my spirit wins out against the evils of the flesh. But we all um, have that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde within us. Um, but God can lift us up and strengthen us. Now, Job, which is the book we're going to be in, didn't do anything wrong. Matter of fact, he did some things right, and God noticed or saw the righteousness that Job had. Now, Job was not righteous because he was a good man. Job was righteous because he trusted God, and he did animal sacrifices. This is around the time of Abraham that this book was written. So this is before Christ came in his incarnation, several thousand years before that. And Job, um, he was a righteous man because he followed the pattern of Abel. Remember Cain and Abel? Abel gave the animal sacrifice. Remember in the garden when God clothed Adam and Eve with skins of an animal? That was the first animal sacrifice. It was the first promise of God to mankind that he would bring the final sacrifice on the cross through Christ to cleanse us of our sins. And Job was doing these sacrifices, looking forward to the coming Messiah and following the pattern that he had learned from Abel, the sacrifice that was accepted by God, to beg God or to ask God for forgiveness for any sins that he has committed or may have committed. And he was also trying to put a covering over his family with those sacrifices as well. And God said to Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job, how righteous he is? Because why? Because he trusts God and he follows God's plan when it comes to salvation." Well, of course, Satan said, "You take the hedge away from him, and I will make him curse you." Satan tried as hard as he could. He hit Job with everything. I mean, everything he had, and failed to get Job to curse God. What an incredible man Job was to be able to endure all of that. He lost everything, including his health. Well, his three friends show up, just to give a little bit of update on what's going on with Job. And his three friends start saying, "Job, what'd you do wrong? Why did God do this to you? What did you do that deserved this this calamity that God has put into your life?" And Job said, "I did nothing." And the debate struck off, and I mean, it got started. And the vast majority of the book of Job is that debate. In chapter 25, Bildad asked a question, how can a man be righteous? It was only 6 verses, a very well put discourse. And the answer is man cannot be righteous unless God makes him righteous. Job is going to respond to this because they keep trying to accuse Job of doing things. And Job's going to respond that a man's frailty and God and God's majesty. He's going to talk about man's frailty and God's majesty. And we are frail creatures, aren't we? When we come to understand and realize the sin that we have to battle every day. We understand how frail we are, but in Christ we are lifted up. And there's going to come a day when we won't have to fight this internal war for anymore. When we depart this earth, that will be taken away from us, and that'll be a glorious day. That's the glorification of the believer. All right, we'll begin with verse 1 out of Job chapter 26. But Job answered and said, let me get this where I can really get to it. Okay. But Job answered and said, how have you helped me who is without power? How have you saved the arm that has no strength? How have you counseled one who has no wisdom? And how have you declared sound advice to many, to whom you have uttered words, and whose spirit came from you? The dead tremble, those under the waters, and those inhabiting them. Sheol is naked before God, and destruction has no covering. He stretches out the north over empty space. He hangs the earth on nothing. He binds up the water in his thick clouds, yet the clouds are not broken under it. He covers the face of his throne. He spreads his cloud over it. He drew a circular horizon on the face of the waters. At the boundary of light and darkness, the pillars of heaven tremble and are astonished at his rebuke. He stirs up the sea with his power, and by his understanding he breaks up the storm. By his spirit he adorned the heavens. By his hand pierced the fleeing serpent. Indeed, these are the mere edges of his ways, and how small a whisper we hear of him. But the thunder of his power, who can understand? Now, if you're a proponent of the flat earth theory and you want to maintain that theory, and you believe that theory because you think Genesis teaches a flat earth, whatever you do, don't read Job 26, which I just read. Oh, it's too late. I already read it. You already heard it if you're watching this video. Why would you say that? Well, because it talks about the circumference of the earth. That's not flat. Listen again. It's talking about things that God does. Let's begin with verse 5. The dead tremble. The dead tremble? Which dead tremble? The ones who are still in their trespasses and sins and died in those sins without the salvation that God gives. Those under the waters and those inhabiting them, Sheol is naked before him, and destruction has no covering. Even hell is not hidden from God. He hangs the earth on nothing. I paused for effect. A little bit of apple juice there. It's in space. It's hung on nothing. And that's what we see, right? That's what science is telling us. That's what those who've gone up into orbit around the Earth, there's nothing hanging the Earth, keeping it, holding it up, right? It's suspended in space. He binds up the water with his thick clouds. Clouds are water vapors, but they don't always drop water. Sometimes they do. Yet the clouds are not broken under it. He covers the face of his throne. He spreads his cloud over it. He drew a circular horizon on the face of the waters. The face of the waters? The oceans. Circular horizon? Have you ever seen, I saw a video recently of an SR-71, that spy plane out of the Cold War era that could outrun missiles, and it could go really just almost into orbit around the Earth. And from that video, the pilot, because this is, all of this top secret stuff is now, it's no longer top secret because they don't use that plane anymore. So a pilot took it up and he got up really high, and you could see the curvature of the Earth from that SR-71 cockpit. At the boundary of light and darkness, uh, that circle of the Earth, the sun as the Earth spins. The pillars of heaven tremble and are astonished at his rebuke, and is giving God the credit for all of this. He stirs up the sea with his power, and by his understanding, he breaks up the storm. What he's saying is God is in control of nature, and it's God's majesty that he is in control of nature. Job is saying, "What is man compared to this? And how have you helped me, you miserable comforters, who keep accusing me of things and trying to get me to repent of something I didn't do? How in the world have you helped me? But compare yourselves to God, who can do all of these things. So where's your wisdom?" This is what Job is telling them. It's an interesting question, isn't it? This philosophy in this book going back and forth, and this theology going back and forth between Job and his detractors is just incredible. Now, Job continues in 27 and 28, and so I don't want to break the in 29. Well, let's just get on with it then. And 30, 31. Is this right? Oh, okay. You know what? He goes all the way up to 32. Let's rock it through Job. Let's do it. Because I don't want to break Job's thoughts up. So let's go. So Job maintains his integrity. 27 verse 1. Moreover, Job continued his discourse and said, "As God lives, who has taken away my justice? And the Almighty, who has made my soul bitter? As long as my breath is in me and the breath of God in my nostrils, my lips will not speak wickedness, nor my tongue utter deceit. Far be it from me that I should say, you are aright. Till I die, I will not put away my integrity from me. My righteousness I hold fast and will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me as long as I live. May my enemy be like the wicked, and he who rises up against me like the unrighteous. For what is the hope of the hypocrite? Though he may gain much, if God takes away his life, will God hear his cry when trouble comes upon him? Will the delight, will he delight himself in the Almighty? Will he always call on God? I will teach you about the hand of God. What is the Almighty? I will not conceal. Surely all of you have seen it. Why then do you behave with complete nonsense? This is the portion of a wicked man of God, and the heritage of oppressors, received from the Almighty. If his children are multiplied, it is for the sword. And his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread. Those who survive him shall be buried in death. And their widows shall not weep, though he heaps up silver like dust, and piles up clothing like clay. He may pile it up, but the just will wear it, and the innocent will divide the silver. He builds his house like a moth, like a booth with a watch, which a watchman makes. I'll try it again. Like a booth which a watchman makes. The rich man will lie down, but not be gathered up. He opens his eyes, and he is no more. Terrors overtake him like a flood. A tempest steals him away in the night. The east wind carries him away, and he is gone. It sweeps him out of his place. It hurts against him and does not spare. He flees desperately from its power. Men shall clap their hands at him, and he shall hiss him out of his place. One of the things that Job's friends were saying was that Job, if you would have been honoring God, he would have kept you in your riches and would have never made you poor and would have never taken away all of your riches and your goods from you. And Job is countering this and saying, even the rich can fall under the curse of God if they are not acting righteously, even in the midst of being rich, even in the midst of the riches. The soul can be tormented. This is what Job is saying in this chapter. So he's arguing back and saying, no, that's not correct. It's kind of like the, what is it, the prosperity gospel today? Well, if you're right with God, God will prosper you. That's what Job's friends were saying. And it was false. Job is saying that's not true. It's the spirit of man where the real treasure is. See, Job had the real treasure because he lost everything, but he didn't lose his spirit. He didn't lose his soul. He kept the very thing that is a source of the greatest treasures that he had. His connection to God and the strength of his spirit. And this is what Job is telling them in chapter 27. And he's saying, I maintain my integrity even though God has taken everything from me. That is the greatest treasure. 28, we'll go to 28, Job's discourse on wisdom. Surely there is a mine of silver and a place where gold is refined. Iron is taken from the earth, and copper is smelted from ore. Man puts an end to darkness and searches every recess. For ore in the darkness and the shadow of death. He breaks open a shaft away from people. In places forgotten by feet, they hang far away from men. They swing to and fro. He's talking about mining and going down in the mines and mining out these minerals and these ore and this copper and all of that. As for the earth, from it comes bread, but underneath it is turned up as by fire. Its stones are the source of sapphires, and it contains gold dust. That path no bird knows, nor has the falcon's eye seen it. The proud lions have not trodden it, nor has the fierce lion passed over it. But he puts his hand in the flint on the flint. And I remember making fires when I was in Boy Scout as a kid, and you had to be careful. You didn't build a fire plant over a flint rock because then the flint would come flying out. That used to happen. Flint would come flying out like bullets out of the fire. You had to be careful. He overturns the mountains at the roots. He cuts our channels into rocks. And his eye sees every precious thing. He dams up the streams from trickling. What is hidden? He brings forth the light. He's saying nothing's hidden from God. That's all he's saying. You know, even the going down into the mines and mining the earth, even the precious stones coming out, even the things that lions cannot see and the falcons cannot see, even when they're flying from the air, those things that are hidden from them, God sees it. It's not hidden from God. And of course, if you catch the metaphor, the heart of man is not hidden from God. The deep things of the soul of man, the deep recesses of soul that no one else can see, they're not hidden from God. But where can wisdom be found? And where is the place of understanding? Man does not know its value, nor is it found in the land of the living. The deep says, "It is not me." And the sea says, "It is not with me." It cannot be purchased for gold, nor can silver be weighed for its price. It cannot be valued in the gold of Ophir, in precious onyx or sapphire. Neither gold nor crystal can equal it, nor can it be exchanged for jewelry of fine gold. No mention shall be made of coral or quartz, for the price of wisdom is above rubies. The topaz of Ethiopia cannot equal it, nor can it be valued in pure gold. Wisdom is more precious and more valuable than diamonds and rubies and gold. And can we put it into a modern context? The stock market, cash, money, crypto. It's more value than any riches, temporal riches on this earth. Verse 20. No, well, let me before I go to 20, remember what Jesus said. What does it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Verse 20. From where then does wisdom come? Because he said up here, he said, but where can wisdom be found? He said it's not found among the living. He says, nor is it found in the land of the living. Wisdom's found among the dead. Yeah, the spirit world. It's found where God is. It's found, in other words, God is the source of wisdom. It's found in the spirit world. From where then does wisdom come? And where is the place of understanding? It is hidden from the eyes of all living and concealed from the birds of the air. Destruction and death say, we have heard a report about it with our ears. God understands its way. He knows its place. For he looks to the ends of the earth and sees under the whole heavens to establish a weight for the wind and apportion the waters by measure. When he made a law for the rain and a path for the thunderbolt, then he saw wisdom and declared it. He prepared it. Indeed, he searched it out. And to man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. And to depart from evil is understanding. But Job's saying that wisdom does not come from creation. It does not come from the earth. It comes from God. So what's he telling his friends? You spent all this time lecturing me, questioning me, asking me, what did you do, Job? And trying to give me all this wisdom that you think you know and that you think you have to try to help me to get me to repent of whatever it is I did. And yet you have no wisdom because the source of all true wisdom is God himself. This is what Job is telling them. We'll go to chapter 29, Job's summary defense. Job further continued his discourse and said, "Oh, that I were as oh that I were as in months past." So months have gone by since the initial incident where Job lost everything. Oh, that I were, as in months past, as in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone upon my head, and when his light I walked through darkness, when by his light I walked through darkness. The light of God was within his soul. God redeemed Job even before Christ died on the cross. Job had that light of God in him, that redemption. Just as it was in the days of my prime, when the friendly counsel of God was over my tent. He walked with the Lord. When the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were around me, when my steps were bathed with cream, when the rock poured out rivers of oil for me, when I went out to the gate by the city, when I took my seat in the open square. The young men saw me and hid, and the aged arose and stood. The princesses refrained from talking and put their hand on their mouth because they feared God, and they feared the wisdom that God had given Job. The voice of nobles was hushed, and their tongues stuck to the roof of their mouth. This is one of the passages where some of the scholars think that Job was over the princesses, that he was actually maybe the king of a nation. When the ear heard, then it blessed me. And when the eye saw, then it approved me. Because I delivered the poor who cried out, and the fatherless, and the one who had no helper. The blessing of a perishing man came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe and a turban. I was eyes to the blind, I was feet to the lame, I was a father to the poor, and I searched out the case that I did not know. I broke the fangs of the wicked and plucked the victim from his teeth. Then I said, I shall die in my nest and multiply my days as sand. My root is spread out to the waters, and the dew lies all night on my branch. My glory is fresh within me, and my bow is renewed in my hand. Men listened to me and waited, and kept silence for my counsel. After my words, they did not speak again, and my speech settled on them as dew. They waited for me as for the rain, and they opened their mouth wide as for the spring rain. If I mocked at them, they did not believe it, and the light of my countenance they did not cast down. I chose the way for them and sat as chief. So I dwelt as a king in the army, as one who comforts mourners. Job said, God was walking with me and I had the wisdom of God. God was walking with me and I had the wisdom of God. What is Job saying here? God seems distant from me now. And yet then, just a few months ago, God seemed so close and gave me such comfort and wisdom. Have you hit a time where God seems distant? Every believer, every Christian hits a time like that in their life, maybe multiple times like that. And the test is, are you going to continue to walk with him when he seems to be distant from you? It's a real test. I've had numerous times when God seemed distant. And I know I have to walk with him. I have to open the scriptures when I don't feel worthy to open the scriptures. I have to pray when I don't feel worthy to come before his throne. And I don't feel his presence. I don't feel his comfort. I don't feel he's so distant. And yet I still have to walk with him. Chapter 30, verse 1. But now, I'm gonna continue past 30 minutes. But now they mock at me, men younger than I, whose fathers I disdained to put with the dogs of my flock. Indeed, what profit is the strength of their hands to me? Their vigor has perished. They are gaunt from want and famine, fleeing late to the wilderness, desolate and wise, who pluck mallow by the bushes and broom tree roots for their food. They were driven out from among men. They shouted at them as at a thief. They had to live in the cliffs of the valleys, in caves of the earth, and in the rocks. Among the bushes they brayed. Under the nettles they nestled. They were sons of fools, yes, sons of vile men. They were scourged from the land. And now I am their taunting song. Yes, I am their byword. They abhor me. They keep far from me. They do not hesitate to spit in my face because he has loosed my bowstring and afflicted me. They have cast off restraint before me. At my right hand, the rabble arises. They push away my feet. And they raise against me their ways of destruction. They break up my path. They promote my calamity. They have no helper. They come as broad breakers. Under the ruinous storm they roll along. Terrors are turned upon me. They pursue my honor as the wind, and my prosperity has passed like a cloud. And now my soul is poured out because of my plight. The days of affliction take hold of me. My bones are pierced in me at night, and my gnawing pains take no rest. By great force my garment is disfigured. It binds me about as the collar of my coat. It has cast me into the mire, and I have become like dust and ashes. I cry out to you, but you do not answer me. He's talking to God now. I stand up and you regard me, but you have become cruel to me. With the strength of your hand you oppose me. You lift me up to the wind and cause me to ride on it. You spoil my success. For I know that you will bring me to death and to the house appointed for all living. Surely he would not stretch out his hand against a heap of ruins. If they cry out when he destroys it, have I not wept for him who is in trouble? Has not my soul grieved for the poor? And when I looked for good, evil came to me. When I looked for good, evil came to me. Think about that one. And when I waited for light, then came darkness. It happens. My heart is in turmoil and cannot rest. Days of affliction confront me. I go about mourning, but not in the sun, and I stand up in assembly and cry out for help. I am a brother of jackals and a companion of ostriches. My skin grows black and falls from me. My bones burn with fever. My harp is turned to mourning, and my flute to the voice of those who weep. Now we are in chapter 31, and I will have a conclusion after chapter 31. Let me get a sip of help my throat. I have made a covenant with my eyes. Why then should I look upon a young woman? For what is the allotment of God from above and the inheritance of the Almighty from on high? Right there, Job is more righteous than me, and probably more righteous than most of you. He made a covenant with his eyes. He would not look upon a young woman. How many men in our age have struggled with lust, sexual lust? Let's get real about it. It wasn't as in your face back then as it is now. We have to fight that, battle against it. For what is the allotment of God from above, and the inheritance of the Almighty from on high? Is it not destruction for the wicked, and disaster for the workers of iniquity? Does he not see my ways and count all my steps? If I have walked with falsehood, or if my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighed on honest scales. That God may know my integrity. If my step has turned from the way, or my heart walked after my eyes, or if any spot adheres to my hands, then let me sow and another eat. Yes, let my harvest be rooted out. He's saying, if I'm guilty of these things that you're accusing me of, then let these things happen to me. Then let my then let me sow and another eat. Yes, let my harvest be rooted out. See what I'm saying? If my heart has been enticed by a woman, if that's been my sin, he says, or if I have lurked at my neighbor's door and let my wife grind for another. See, that was going on in the ancient world. That's the thing he's talking about. That was going on in the ancient world. And let others bow down over her, for that would be wickedness. Yes, it would be iniquity, deserving of judgment. For that would be a fire that consumes to destruction and would root out all my increase. If I have despised the cause of my male or female servant, he's saying, if I've mistreated my servants when they complained against me, what shall I do when God rises up? When he punishes, how shall I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make them? Did not the same one fashion us in the womb? We all came from the womb. We were all made of the dust of the earth as Adam, he's saying. If I have kept the poor from their desire, or caused the eyes of the widow to fail, he's going through the list of things that they accused him of. If I've mistreated the poor, he's saying, or eaten my morsel by myself, not shared with others, that the fatherless could not eat of it. But from my youth I reared him as a father. And from my mother's womb I guided the widow. I took care of the widow, he says. If I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, I didn't see someone who was of lack of clothing and ignore them. I took care of them, he says. Or any poor man without covering. If his heart has not blessed me, and if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, the fleece of the sheep, making clothing for them. If I have raised my hand against the fatherless, the orphan, when I saw I had help in the gate, then let my arm fall from my shoulder, and let my arm be torn from my shot from the socket. For destruction from God is a terror to me, and because of his magnificence, I cannot endure. He says, I didn't do these things, Job says, because I feared God. God's punishment, his destruction terrified me. Have you ever gotten to a point in your life where you were scared to death of hell? Where you were scared of the death? You were trembling under the idea of falling under the wrath of God? I have. I have been there. If I have made gold my hope, or said to find gold, you are my confidence. If I put all my hope in the riches of this life to take care of me, he's saying, if I have rejoiced because my wealth was great, and because my hand had gained much, and he had much, he was very wealthy, but he didn't trust in the wealth. He lost it all and still trusted in God. That's where his focus was. If I have observed the sun when it shines, or the moon moving in brightness, so that my heart has been secretly enticed, and my mouth has kissed my hand, if there's a secret sin of self-worship, this also would be an iniquity deserving of judgment. For I would have denied God who is above, if I have rejoiced at the destruction of him who hated me, or lifted myself up when evil found him. Indeed, I have not allowed my mouth to sin by asking for a curse on his soul. If the men of my tent have not said, who is there that has not been satisfied with his meat? But no sojourner had to lodge in the street, for I have opened my doors to the traveler. If I have covered my transgressions as Adam, by hiding my iniquity in my bosom, because I feared the great multitude and dreaded the contempt of families, so that I kept silent and did not go out of the door. Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my mark. Oh, that the Almighty would answer me, that my prosecutor had written a book. Surely I would carry it on my shoulder and bind it on me like a crown. I would declare to him the number of my steps. Like a prince, I would approach him. If my land cries out against me and it furrows deep together, if I have eaten its fruit without money or caused its owners to lose their lives, then let thistles grow instead of wheat and weeds instead of barley. The words of Job are ended. Job saying, look, if I lusted after another woman and went into her and cheated on my wife, if I if I lent my wife out to prostitution, if I didn't clothe the naked, feed the hungry, help the poor, be good to the traveler, and provide a place to stay. All of these different things that he was talking about. If I didn't do those things, then surely God would deal with me. But he's saying, I didn't do any of that. I didn't have any secret sins, Job says. And yet, God still pulled his presence away from me. And yet, I lost all of my riches and all of my gold and my health and my kids. God took them away from me. My ability to travel, he took it away from me. And yet, Job still trusted God. He lamented that God was far from him and was wondering, where are you, Lord, when I'm in this great need? Well, God was right there. Job just didn't know that God was right there. And God's going to show up in later chapters. But first, Elihu, the wisest, the one who is actually wisest among those friends, he's number four. Friend number four is going to speak up, and he's going to have some righteous rebukes to give. And that's going to be chapters 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, uh, all the way up to 38. And so that's going to be a long reading as well. In 38, God shows up and God's going to have some things to say. And that's going to end the book. And that is going to be, when we get to that, that's going to be phenomenal. And so that's going to go from 38 to 42. We will read Elihu all in one setting from 32 to 38, and we will read 38 to the end of the book in one setting. So these are going to be long sessions to end up Job, but we have to keep it together, otherwise we lose the thought of the discourse. So I hope this was a blessing to you. I'm going to be back. I've got to get into Proverbs and Psalms and Ezekiel, and on we go. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next reading here on the C Files. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share these videos.